Oh, I need to get on a road trip. Sounds like.
Come, girl, let's make a beer.
We are live, folks. We are live. Let's see who's the first one to make a comment.
Dabino?
I don't know. I think we should start throwing money out there.
No. Money's too hard to come by, as Abel knows. We'll just keep that in a little under the radar there, but inside joke. But man,
yeah. Still haven't heard anything yet, so I need to figure that out.
Oh, by the way, I got a notice that was actually my Patreon, not yours, not ours.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
So I got mine. That was fantastic. But it looks like the saga continues. At any rate, well, for anybody who's out there not commenting, we already had a really good fun time with these two. It's going to be a great show. I'm not even joking. I mean, it's just nice to have such energetic folks. Yeah, two different personalities, but both just this positive energy that you guys bring to the show, and your answers were great. So thanks for taking time and just being part of this. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nothing against boys. Yeah. Nothing against boys. But I have a much better time when there's another female on. Just saying.
I do too.
You work at a brewery. Like we need to talk collab. What's next? Like, all right.
I think this is our first show, all three of us together in like 2 months.
Yeah.
It's either I'm not around, or Estella's not around, or Brandon. Well, Brandon's always around.
Brandon's always around.
Brandon that has no life. He lives for beer and podcasting. Yeah. But if you ever do find your way back down here, please let us know, and we'd love to hook up with you for a real beer, like in person, and definitely you have to hit Estella's spot, and from there it's just the sky's the limit. There's so much going on, and she's not even far from OB, so you could go right over there and experience just what Verno did.
Man, I felt like I was just like, oh man, just like there's just so much to do, and I didn't drive anywhere. I walked everywhere, which was just super fun. Stopped at a couple different places and found some great sushi. There's just so much to explore there. I'll definitely would love more insight on where to go. And yeah, would definitely.
I'm going to guess you went to OB Noodle House.
Well, I did get suggested to go OB Noodle House, and I went in, and then I sat at the bar, and then I left. I got up and I left, and I went and found some sushi, and yeah, I went in, I saw wings. I was like, wings sound good. I love wings, but I really wanted to get some sushi. So I went and walked around, found some sushi, and I had a great night. The bartender kept handing me sake drinks for free. And yeah, it was great. I'm trying to figure it. It's called the Joint or something.
Oh, the Joint's awesome.
Yeah.
Joint's cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
By the way, those wings, man, on Food Network, they are legit. So if you get back there,
I heard they were
still
awesome.
Go to the Joint. Still go to the Joint, but they're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Joint is really a special place.
Rob says, "¿Qué onda, guys? ¿Qué onda? What's up?"
¿Qué onda, Rob?
What's colon D? Oh, that's a smiley face.
Oh, you're such a grandpa.
Literally and figuratively. Yes, that's true. All right. Okay, well.
Yeah, we're 4 minutes in. We're looking good right now.
I'll be ready when you are, and get my Squeezy rider on. And I like that session IPA as well. I had a chance to try that when I first saw Veronica via this platform. Right? It was like a Zoom, the whole media call that we did. That was really, really fun day.
Well, that was the first domino, that was just like, dink. Okay, now we're getting to know,
Yeah.
Review, and it was the first domino. So more dominoes will fall. I can already feel it.
Very cool. Very cool.
All right, guys, we're gonna start the show. Here comes the intro. Just say hi and be happy.
Hi.
Oh, my laptop.
Oh, that's a good point.
In the beer show. I'm having problems. At any rate, we have a really cool episode with really cool people. Deschutes Brewery in the house, a little bit of Oregon, brought straight to you, and we couldn't be happier about it. I'm just going to, I know we're going to have a lot to talk about, so I'm just going to let these two introduce themselves so you can get acquainted with them and we can get right into the show and what we're drinking right now. Please take it away. Anybody whose first name starts with V.
Okay. Maybe not V, but VE. Let's go VE.
There you go. Or VER even.
Call you, Verno.
Okay. All right. My name is Jeff Johnson, aka Verno. My middle name is Vernon. There are a lot of Jeff Johnsons at Deschutes and just in the world. And yeah, so a lot of my family calls me Vern. When I started at Deschutes in April 2014, so a little over 7 years ago, and started in the tasting room. I was trying to get my master's in counseling, and I was also taking a homebrewing course that actually Veronica was an instructor at, kind of at the same time, and got me really inspired. I remember she brought in a black beet porter that had been fermented with Belgian yeast and 1187, and it was just like this super blow your mind, earlier part of my getting into home brewing and just having a great time with that. And ended up that taking people on tours and talking about beer was way more fun than my master's. And so I quit my master's and got into the brewing department through an internship program at Deschutes about 6 years ago. And yeah, I've kind of bounced around at Deschutes in the brewing department in a couple different roles. I worked as our pilot brewer for a while, and then I worked as our barrel brewer for a year, and then came back on the floor as one of our lead brewers. And then just a few months ago, got the job in the pilot brewery as our just kind of the head brewer of the pilot brewery, and it's been super fun. Yeah, love Deschutes. Super excited about this new role and being able to be creative. And so, yeah, that's kind of who I am at the moment. I'm at my parents' house, and it's really smoky on vacation. And
what kind of smoke are we talking about on vacation?
I'm like, we're bothering you during your vacation. I'm so sorry.
You sound awfully coherent. I mean,
yeah. It's all about hiding it well,
Yeah.
Well, you got to talk about that sweet hat, though, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the Charlotte Hornets here. Big Muggsy Bogues fan growing up. Found this in the closet here, and so it's still in nice mint, early '90s condition.
Nice.
That is so funny about like when you go to your parents' house and you like go through a closet and you're like, oh, I'm so glad you still have it. And then you like wear it for a little bit. And then when you leave, sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to leave it here. But
I'm just going to leave it here.
You've done such a good job caring for it all these years. I mean, I don't want to take it away from you. It's like leaving part of myself.
Yeah,
totally.
Exactly. Exactly. I can't believe you brought up that story. That it's been years since I've thought about those trials. And it's funny because now it comes around because your day to day is doing exactly that. Trialing like one beer, 2 different yeasts, 3 different hops, like that whole it's full circle, Verno.
Full circle. I know. It's super fun.
Super rad. Yeah. Well, I'm Veronica Vega, and I am director of product development here. So I get to work on all the new innovations for Deschutes. I get to work with amazing brewers like Verno and our pub brewers. We have a brewery in Portland, a brewery in Bend, our original, obviously the pilot brewery in Roanoke. So we all get to work together and collaborate with our marketing team and all that to bring new beers to life. We have a barrel program here. So I mean, just fingers in the pot. I feel like lots of finger painting is what I get to do with beer projects. And I've been here for about 15 years. Started in tours actually too. That's another, like we share that, Verno.
Yep.
Get your foot in the door of the tour department.
That's how it happens.
Right. Get bit by the bug, you're like, oh shit, you can get paid to do this. So
blew me away.
Got bit by the bug, and then spent some time in production. Went over to the Bend Pub for a little bit. That's where I really, really found a lot of love in recipe development, flavor development. And then, ended up coming back around to into the production brewery to work on innovation and product development. So, yeah.
Wow. And I know there's still even more to talk about. I mean, 15 years. Quick question, though, before we get into the beer. When you were entering via the tour route, did you have the aspirations to be where you are now? Or were you just kind of, this is a cool company, I want to be involved somehow? Or what was that like?
I did not have the aspirations. I was really just kind of trying to make life work in Bend. I used to be in like biological field work, which kind of, you change jobs every season. You're like, all right, what is the government going to fund? Okay, cool. You care about spotted owls? I'm going to go work in these forests and track spotted owls, right? So I kind of like, I went through a couple, and it was like, this is fun. This is really cool. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm going to kind of have to put some roots down somewhere. I'm going to have to like pick a spot. And I had been traveling around the Pacific Northwest and visited Bend, really loved the community here. And so I was like nannying, watering plants, like bartending, like just trying to make life work. And tasting room employee was one of those things. Wow. And all in like, I wanted to find my place in Bend. Like, what's my career going to be? And the tasting room job was like, holy smokes. Is this the family show? Holy smokes.
No, go for it. Just let it go. How did you really feel?
Holy shit. I could like bring my biology background to like, like hook out. Yeah.
You used up your bad word of the show, ma'am. Sorry. No more.
The seal's been broken. Let's go.
Yeah,
all right.
There it is.
Okay. Yes. That was the thing. Like I could bring my science, like, I went to college, I like one of the first to graduate, in 4 year, my family. So, there's some big expectations. So I was like, oh man, I can like actually bring my science background into a career here. So it was a light bulb moment that came a little later in life than I think others that have come into the beer industry.
How psyched was your family though when you said, "Hey, I have a degree. I'm gonna go make beer"? Fuck yeah!
It took a bit.
Went over great.
It took a bit, but now of course they're like, "Miha, we're so proud of you. Anything you do is amazing."
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
yes.
Speaking of beer and things they probably think are amazing, let's talk about our first beer, Squeezy Rider. Take us through it. Take us through just how it fits into kind of like what Deschutes is doing right now, and then we'll tell you what we think of it.
Oh, sorry.
Here. Excellent job.
Yes, get that way. Totally. Yeah. Well, Squeezy Rider was one of our beers that followed Fresh Haze. So we've been building this kind of IPA portfolio within what we're calling the Fresh family. So we started out with Fresh Squeezed, which was, totally built around Citra. Like we were one of the breweries that sponsored Citra as an experimental varietal, built a brand around it, and then followed that with Fresh Haze. Yes, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Hey, the customers and the community, we're all building this together, right? So yeah, it's a mutual thing. Fresh Haze was like, okay, let's not make fresh squeezed but hazy. Let's make our unique hazy, but like keep it in this fresh line. So Squeezy Rider was kind of bringing the West Coast IPA back around into like, okay, let me start over. Let's just say West Coast IPAs have had like a process, right? So, since we're all from the West Coast, we already know the journey, but we'll just talk about it. Like, they started as light malt, build a lot of pine, a lot of citrus, get that resin, get those 80 IBUs in there, C hops, maybe some Chinooks, like all those, right? So we even had a West Coast IPA in the portfolio called Pine Drops, very like much in that vein. Now I think the West Coast IPA has gone through an evolution where brewers have taken the hop processes of hazy IPAs, whether it's active fermentation hopping, whether it's yeast selection, whether it's hop select like hop products and putting them in that nice, bright, light malt profile. So that's where Squeezy is. Like, all right, it's the new West Coast IPA, right? It's the evolution of the West Coast IPA.
It is fun to see where it's been, where it's going, and you almost can't necessarily predict at each node within this timeline where it's going to go next. I mean, looking back, everything seems so logical, right? But you don't know what hops are going to be discovered and cultivated and come about. So I love the fact that you're spotlighting Strata here, which I always called Strata, but ever since I've been talking to Veronica today, I just feel like, yep, it's Strata. I've been saying it wrong all this time, but just a wonderful hop.
Don't even get started on Kavik.
Okay.
We won't go amarillo either. That's a whole other conversation.
I am a real little hops.
No.
I hear you. I hear you, girlfriend. 10-4. So Deschutes was founded 1988. We have, no brew. Yeah, we have a couple breweries that made it before that, but not by much.
Not very many.
If any. Like Carl Strauss is 89. We did have a brewery that came out. It was Bolt. It came back later as Bolt, but that's a long time, and it was just a small brew pub in Bend. So it's grown significantly. You are now the 10th largest craft brewery in the United States, if I'm correct.
Holding strong to that spot.
Yeah, top 10, baby. But can you maybe take us through a brief but thorough history of the steps along the way that grew it from this small entity into something that we're familiar with even down here in San Diego? We see Black Butte and other beers, Mirror Pond. It's something we're familiar with, but we're not even up in Oregon. So how did this all happen?
Yeah, Verno, you want to get on this one?
Man, I feel like we're gonna need to tag team the longevity of Deschutes. But how did it all happen? I think there's so much of Deschutes that is really, in my experience, has really maintained its roots of a really small brewery and the community that was so important to Gary when he opened up the pub and trying to bring in. Like, there are still people that show up in the pub that have been showing up since '88, and there are the same. Like, it's a very consistent crew of people that show up at the pub on a daily basis, which is amazing. And yeah, so it's just how important that small community is. But ultimately, Deschutes has been in this wonderful spot, Oregon, Northwest, Bend, this extremely. They almost have matched each other as far as like growth. Bend started out at the time in '88 was this very small logging community that was struggling for anything for jobs, and taking at Deschutes, we want to feature a beer that's dark in a sea of like lagers and the world of light lagers that definitely persists very strong in the 80s and still now. But it's leading with a porter, and it worked. Totally worked. People loved it. And that beer is, the number one craft selling porter. I could be wrong with that, but I'm pretty sure it's still the number one craft selling porter. And I think
we can claim that.
And I think it's like, like one of every, they like for every porter sold, 50% of them are Black Butte Porter, which is just an incredible, a feat for a brewery to lead that charge in porter category. I think is really cool from a really small 20,000 people, 15,000 people in Bend at the time. And now, I mean, we haven't had an accurate census probably in 10 years, but it's got to be well over 100,000 people for sure where we're at now. And Deschutes has certainly grown quite dramatically. In '93, they opened up a spot across the river, which is only about a mile away from the original pub downtown. And then things have just continued to expand since then, and trying to do it as controlled as possible and find a way to fit into the niche of craft beer, because it's obviously changing like crazy. It's way different than it was 10 years ago and way different than it was 30 years ago. And hell, it's even different than it was 5 years ago. There's just like, it's just changing like crazy. You know, you're seeing so many people drink. Like I came home for a family reunion, and I brought, you know, a bunch of beer, but it's like Truly and like there's so much seltzer. There's just so much seltzer in the fridge of what everybody brought to the family reunion, and it's the 5 years ago, you know, you would not have seen that. So
truly.
But I digress from, you know, the original question.
Oh, that's okay. I have a second part. Either of you can take it. But so explain to us where you are now, as far as be it number of locations, brewing capacity, your distribution. Just kind of catch us up on the current present where we're at right now.
Yeah, so that original pub brewery is still there, 10-barrel brew house, you know, spitting out new beers every week, new beers there. Portland is 18-barrel Casper Schultz brew house. Got two amazing brewers up there, Jake and Jim. Shout out to Jake and Jim. Robin at the Bend Pub. We have our production breweries in Bend, Oregon. So 150-barrel Hoopman Brew House, and then the JV Brew House is what started it all here. That brew house still gets some love, brewing up all of our dark beers, some of our barrel-aged base beers. Really cool place for training and, you know, getting that, like, it's a manual brew house, so it's very tactical, like, you know, smelling, throwing valves, like all that sort of thing. So we still have that here in production. We have a small 20-gallon system in Roanoke. So shout out to Brianna, who's brewing over there. And, you know, you heard Verno runs the show in our pilot. So it's a 2-barrel capacity, but we split 2 single barrels. So the mash gets up to 2-barrel. We have a 2-barrel fermenter, a 2-barrel bright, but mostly it's singles. So he's doing a lot of split batches there. Yeah, like, you know, distribution wise, this is where my like details like start to splinter a little. I'm like, we're in like 33-ish states.
I think I heard 39 last. I don't know. I could be wrong. It's like, yeah, the splintering is occurring.
I like 30 to 40. That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely like predominantly West Coast and then the Rockies, and then as you get towards the East Coast, you know, it starts getting into pockets of distribution out there. But yeah, doing our thing out here in Oregon.
Yeah, I see this like question over here from Rob. Does anyone know how the brewery chose that community? Is there anything special about the water or raw materials in that area? I thought I'd, you know, touch on this real quick. I think, you know, Gary chose the Bend community. He, you know, at the time he was running a restaurant in Utah, and came with his family up to Bend just on vacation, just kind of like checking it out, and really loved the community and thought it was a really great place to potentially raise a family and start a business. And you know, our original brewmaster is John Harris, who runs Ecliptic Brewing now in Portland. Just very much a legend in the Oregon beer world and just beer world in general. And it also, or Ecliptic, did I say eclectic? But Ecliptic, but he is an eclectic fellow. But Ecliptic Brewing, yep. But yeah, just like the water is amazing in Bend. It's extremely soft, creates a wonderful base canvas for really any style. And if you've never been to Bend, it's beautiful. And there's a lot to be said for having beer in a place that's beautiful can really just elevate the whole experience. And Bend is definitely a beautiful place to drink beer and really do anything. And it's very outdoor centered. And yeah, the Deschutes River is awesome. Runs right through town, just a block or so from the downtown pub, and runs at the very bottom of our production facility. And yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
I mean, can I jump in here to also add, like, I just love, this has always been like one of the reasons why I just love like how Deschutes started in our story, is that Gary did feel this vision of like what a brew pub could do to build community, you know? And it's, we've seen it all over the country. You know, if you see a town that like, you know, like you put a brewery downtown, like what does that do? Like, and like he brought this idea of the public house. So that means that like across socioeconomic sectors, like people are equal over beer. You come here, you talk it out, you know, this is like a community center. And you know, we still have a lot to go to actually make that true, like truly true. But I think it was a amazing vision and inspiration, and something we work towards every day on, like knowing what we have in craft beer, like the capacity to build community, you know?
Yeah, I think it was like a couple years ago now, but there was a documentary that was done. There's a couple of them done by this. Maybe V can help me out, but I think it's Pints. There's one for Terminal Gravity out in Eastern Oregon, which is a really cool story as well. But it's like a 15 to 20-minute documentary. It's called Flagship by the River, and it'll give you a really inside scoop and some great interviews with Gary and kind of how Deschutes came to be, and definitely is I'll just give you like the inside scoop. It's a very authentic vision into what Deschutes is all about, which is cool.
Nice. All right.
That was a very long-winded answer. but you tag teamed it, so it was very well done.
I like the way the wind blew on that. It was good. It was a dense wind.
I know you guys are good. Again, I'm just being the jerk that they say I'm not. To get back to this, so we do play this game here called our top 3, and you guys can be involved in it if you want. If you don't want to, you can skip it. This week's our top 3 because you guys are out of the Pacific Northwest. We are talking about our favorite Pacific Northwest hop varieties. I will go first, and then we'll go to Stella, then Brandon. If you guys want to join in, you can join in. We will probably have a lot of the same hops because I just think it is maybe not.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. Yeah.
But I'm only going to say this one because I just had it the other day. I never had it before in my life. It's Zappa. Yes.
Yeah.
So I just had that for the first time, probably about the other day, about a month ago. When I say the other day, I'm talking about drunk talk. So that's like a month ago.
No time is very.
So I had, if you don't know, Brandon probably didn't brag about me, but I do work at Society. And we made a beer with Zappa hops in it, and I never had it before. And so I talked to our head brewer, or our brewer person, which is Teddy, and he told me all about it. And it was one of those things like, oh, okay, I can pinpoint it now because it's more of like a passion fruit, tropical kind of like a fruity taste to it, and I really got a lot out of that one. So when we're talking about Pacific Northwest hops varieties, Zappa is my number 3. Take it away, Estella.
Okay, you guys are spoiled up there. Just saying, you got all the good stuff up there. Everything that we call the cheater hops, mostly. And it was really hard for me to choose like 3, 2, 1 because these guys frown upon me doing ties for everything, which I usually do.
I don't really. It gives me the liberty to do the same. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just went with 3 answers this time, guys. Just 3. But I did change them like 10 times. So number 3 for me is Citra. I love Citra. I can always kind of point it out, and how do I say it? It makes me happy when I drink it. So it just, for me, that's honestly like the answer. Like I just really, really like it, and some of my favorite beers have it. So Brandon, my good man, what is your number 3?
Well, my good woman, I want that intro to everything. My number 3 is Cashmere, Washington State University, 2013, class of 2013. I love the citrus flavors that are in there, but I also like nuances of. I get a little bit of tropical, but I really get that melon flavor that is kind of hard to pick up here and there, and a lot of the hops that you see coming through. I get like this little cantaloupe thing happening, and I love cantaloupe. So I always feel like just adding some of that to a hop blend enhances it in that way, instead of you see a lot of it's like, let's get a lot of citrusy hops, let's get a lot of tropical hops. But I just think that it brings a little something. Now I don't know if Abel bragged about me, but I used to work at Society. And Stone and Alesmith. But when I worked at Society, we made a single hop beer called The Bachelor, and made a version for the 5th anniversary that was all cashmere. So I really got to try that hop out, and I never forgot it. It really stuck in my my memory as just something I really enjoyed. And to this day, every beer that I have where it's incorporated, I can kind of pick it out a little bit, or at least I think I can. I'm probably like censoring myself out, but I love that. And who doesn't like to drink something called cashmere, for crying out loud?
So velvety feeling.
It's like satin.
Cashmere was the rival high school I grew up with. They're just over the hill. The Cashmere Gym is fantastic. That's certainly what it was named after.
Oh, for sure.
So, Veronica, do you want to play this game with us? You're
I want to
number
play,
3?
but I have to like interject by like, Verno, remember when we were in the pilot and we tasted that Citra IPA and the first words out of my mouth were like, "This makes me so happy."
Yes, I do.
Yes. Exactly what you're describing it, so like I get you. Okay, so I already prefaced this by like I like hops just like I like people like who are so uniquely themselves. So my hop is Sabro, and Verno knows this. He like because I talk about Sabro all the time, and I think just from like bringing my botany background in here is like from a breeding perspective, Sabro. If you cross Sabro with something else, the flavor passes through to the daughters. Like, and it's so mind blowing to me that flavor from a genetic like trait in a hop like Sabro is something it has going on. Plus, it's like a hop that can provide barrel, vanilla, coconut, and like tropical notes, like so awesome. And like it's not easy. Like I really want to make like a black IPA with Sabro and have us do that. And like I don't know if our sales team would like that idea, but like it's hard to get that into something that's like very wide appeal. Like people are polarized about Sabro, and I kind of like that. I like debating and like scratching your head and sniffing and drinking and
and sneaking it in when people don't, and then they say they don't like it, but then they're like, "Oh, this beer's awesome."
Love that. Love when you do that, Verno.
This is really hard. Of like, I've got this like, it's like this wheel. Top 3 is really difficult. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna throw Strata on there. I think it's super exciting new hop, and just it seems like very unique, and there's a lot to be learned with that hop, with like as it continues to get older and pick dates and pick windows and all that stuff. But it's just extremely expressive, and it's interesting too, like where you use it and how different it expresses. But yeah, anyways, I'll toss Strata out there.
Nice.
Ah, cool. Hey guys, we should drink another beer, huh?
Yeah. God bless you. I love you, Estelle. All right.
So we're gonna go with our next beer. I don't know how well you can see this because I've got a lot of light happening over here.
Great. There.
There we go. Yeah. So this is what we're drinking next. Could one of you guys describe exactly? Because you guys sent us a little information sheet, and I was like, "Wow, that's so very informative. Thank you very much." Before I even drank it, I was like, "I know what it's going to taste like in my mouth right now." So, if you guys could tell us about this beer, we're going to be sipping on next.
Anybody? Anybody?
Yeah, totally. So this is
this mic on?
Bueller.
This is a part of that little the Pilot Brew series. You can find it in our mix pack, which is great because I brought a lot of the beer that I was gonna drink for this to a family reunion, and naturally it got drank. So then I ran to I'm in Chelan, which is a really small town in Central Washington. I ran to the store, and they do have mix pack, so I got some Symphonic, and this is a West Coast IPA. It also uses some dynamic hopping, which is a lot of that very similar kind of concept with the Squeezy writer, just stealing different ideas from how we can infuse as much hop character as possible into a beer, but then also playing around with some hop varietals that can bring a little bit more dank character, hence the Symphonic Chronic, and trying to I love this beer. I'm super excited about it, and I really hope that the rest of you do, and the people that drink them it'll hopefully find its way into a more of a its own package format, which would be really exciting because I think this beer is great.
Real
Yeah.
quick,
I was
going back.
reading the.
Yeah,
Oh,
please.
sorry.
I think you're going to ask the same thing I was going to ask.
Well, no, I was reading the description on this, and it caught my attention because it says it combines West Coast kettle hopping with East Coast dry hopping, uniting hop aroma and flavor and a bright, skunky tropical IPA. I was like, that's exactly what this is. So could you just tell us a little bit more about this and how you guys chose to go about this to make this beer? Because it's fantastic.
Yeah. To just like where you're putting the hops, like in past West Coast IPA brewing, we're putting the hops cold side, right? Like, and you're getting more of that pine, floral, citrus type of aromas. But with this, we are bringing in Simcoe and Mosaic Lupul Max. So another more condensed hop product, more lupulin rich, getting rid of shattering off the vegetative matter and getting a little bit more of that lupulin in active fermentation. So when the yeast is in there, it's working its magic, in metabolism, and through that activity, it's unlocking certain flavor compounds in the hop. So you're getting a lot more tropical and those types of aromas. What's funny is how Symphonic Chronic is evolving, even from the beer that you're drinking now. Is we've been wanting to even amplify the dank even more. So we're looking at okay, so what hops do we want in active? And maybe we want a little bit later cold side hopping, to get a little bit more of that dank to come through. So, I'd say that's a perfect example of we put a beer out there, but we're really never done totally tweaking it. So that's some of the action that Symphonic is getting right now. And it was a fun thing to write back to the TTB to tell them what was up with the name. They were like, what are you doing with this? And I was like, well, Symphonic, like a melody of flavor, and Chronic, like it's a sustained flavor,
Oh yeah, Chronic different thing, obviously. Yeah.
The kind of sustained flavor that can become problematic over time. Next thing you know, it's every day's a symphony. So going back to hops, hops are a big deal for any brewery, but you kind of go into a different level when it comes to collaborating with Oregon and Washington hop breeding, hop quality programs, and I really think that's cool. And I was hoping that maybe you could explain some of the folks that you collaborate with, what that's like and how it translates to the end product, how that's made a difference in what we all taste when we get the beer.
This is all Verno. He does this all the time. Yeah.
Yeah. So we collaborate very heavily in the hop world. It's just such a big part of where we are in the Northwest, and just such a big part of what we're trying to do as a brewery, obviously. And so we work with the Hop Research Council, as well as the Hop Quality Group, and we visit farms, talk to different farmers. Really, it's about creating relationships with the farmers, because ultimately they want to grow what we want to brew with, and that's the connection that you really, really want to create, is this little symbiotic relationship of what are you growing, what are you guys liking, what do you see, and then how can we help as far as quality of the hops, kilning temperatures, taking a look at all the processes over time and how they've changed, as far as how we treat hops coming off the vine and into the final package, whether it's whole cone brewery, which we're very much a whole cone brewery, or how quickly hops get pelletized from the time that they come off the vine, like a place like Roy Farms, and how important that continual progression is in the farmer side, because a lot of that equipment, when you go out there and visit, is not necessarily always brand new. This is a community that's been really working on these farms for generations and making things work, and it's amazing to see the ingenuity of how they put things together. But we're ultimately looking. There are a couple different things that I think about when I work with these groups. one is like, yeah, the next sexy hop is is also really exciting, but there's also a ton of hop science that can be done on the current hops we have, in growth right now. Like, how can we use, hops that are older and oxidized in the brewing process that may have like a stronger impact on the final beer. So like, the research that Yakima Chief and Scott Janish is doing with like survivability in hops, and how can we use hops more impactfully depending on where we put them and the certain varietal or the different level of chemicals that make up each varietal, and how that differs, from year to year, from lot to lot. But yeah, I'd say that's kind of the biggest thing that we're working on right now is, we're constantly looking at, as the breeders go, they're constantly looking at different hops that can be extremely impactful, agronomics, and especially with the climate that we're transitioning into Yakima got scorched, a few weeks ago, and a lot of hops are going to be, predicting, down, and, environment's changing. So you have to continue to take a look at hops that grow well, but that also are flavor impactful, that aren't necessarily like what you talked about with like those cheater hops. So there's this really great research that I think is continuing to be explored, and how much can be done, especially on the like the broker and the broker side of things, to be able to provide different chemical compounds in each one of those varietals, each at the harvest time, to influence how people can pick. Because that sensory experience for the lucky folks that get to go to hop selection and be a part of choosing which hops are bringing into their brewery, and how impactful it could be for breweries that don't necessarily have that ability to be able to like take a look at chemical aspects of the hop and figure out, okay, how can I like use this to put into beer to be able to create the beer that I'm looking to, flavor profiles and whatever it is that is for my brewery, and just how impactful that could be for the community, and that's extremely important, and not just for the folks that can get the new sexy Lotus or Sultana or whatever it is that is hard to come by if you're a small brewery somewhere else. But how can you use Bravo better, or Crystal, and can you, so I think there's a lot of that kind of research, and that can still be done, but is being done and being talked about, which is really excited within these groups of the Hop Research Council and high quality groups.
That's awesome. Crystal hops, love them, by the way.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, and nobody ever talks about them ever. But real quick, I want to ask a question, and maybe I'm showing that I just don't have a lot of knowledge in this subject, but agronomics. You mentioned that word, and I'm not really sure what that refers to, but I'd love to. I hope it's just a personal question for me. If you could explain it just a little bit, I'd really appreciate it.
It basically like taking a look at, is it drought tolerant? How pest resistant is it? Does it grow well in places like Yakima better, or does it grow places in places like Willamette Valley better? Does it have a,
like yeast, that sort of thing.
Yeah, is it like mildew resistant, or is it like, and that's going to depict where it needs to be grown, because it can't be in a place where it gets a lot of mildew if it's not very mildew resistant. And then even if it's a great hop like Citra or Mosaic and it doesn't grow well, it doesn't make sense for the farmer to put all kinds of money, time, energy, and water into something that maybe they don't get a great harvest from, pounds per acre. So there's like this balance. You obviously want a lot of flavor and a lot of impactfulness, but you also want it to be something that the farmers are going to want to grow, so that they're not out on an island trying to grow something that isn't growing well, and then they don't get good yields and the hops don't taste good, that are not super finicky, trying to go grow tomatoes outside in Bend, for example, not great,
Just don't do it. Yeah.
Okay.
So who dictates that? Like, you, the brewery community, dictate what farmers do that, or who did?
No, there are folks within the hop quality group that are there are different breeders at each place. So like different brokers, like Haze has breeding program. There are a bunch of different breeders that go through this. Hop scientists that go through and decide through a bunch of different numbered hops. For example, we just with the hop quality group, and the Hop Research Council, there are a bunch of hops that have been chosen, the advanced selection or hops that have gone through and they've grown well. They're show to have good rubs and like potential, like there's maybe one row of hops that are growing, and they pick that year, and then they taste good in a small pilot brew. And then they're like, all right, let's grow it a little bit further. And that's how all of our current, like, favorite hops have turned out to be. The Simcoe, I'm going to forget whatever, what is it? Hill from Russian River. It's like Hill something, Hill 44 or something like that. But something like that. It's just like that, where that original Simcoe hop was grown, and the different breeders take a look at that agronomic side of things, and then when it eventually gets to a point where they decide that it's and we're working with them within that group of like the hop quality group. There's a big board of brewers that are a part of that, and working with different breeders. And Veronica could probably definitely add in some stuff that I'm missing out on.
Well, I mean, I don't know if this is getting like really farm nerdy, but like I'm still gonna keep going because like,
nerd alert.
The thing we love to talk about hops. Another thing to add is like pick window is super interesting, because if a breeder finds a hop that like boom, brewers love the flavor, boom, like it's resistant to powdery mildew, we were checking off things, it's looking good, but guess what? It picks right in the middle of where all the other hops are picking, and like the equipment is laying idle on either sides of these, like, picking harvest times. And if we're continuing to just try to push it all, like into second week of October, are we doing, farmers any service there? It's a little hard. So it's like, that's just another element, to talk as if it's not complicated enough. We're like, let's throw a pick window in there.
Yeah, and like you add that in there with like the kilns, you can pick faster. Sure, you can go through and pick faster, but we're asking over time to continually to kiln at lower temperatures because it preserves the flavor in that hop better than kilning at higher temperatures. And so you can pick as fast as you want, but you're going to be stuck waiting for that kiln to be finished. And so if you continue to have varietals that are late pick varietals, Citra Mosaic, there's a whole list of late pick varietals, then you lose out on a lot of quality. You get more vegetative chlorophyll on the early side of the pick window lots that maybe a brewery gets, or you get more
pizza.
Pizza. Yeah, you just get more pizza.
Well, we did have a question. How old is too old for a hop, even if it's stored properly?
I think it depends on the hop varietal and where you plan on using it. There is some really interesting research about like fatty acids and like, for example, Bravo, and how when it oxidizes a little bit, it has a lot of like survivability potential on the hot side of adding to the whirlpool, and how it can, when I say survivability, like that flavor of that hop survives the hot side interaction and goes into the beer. And with the aging and the slight oxidation of Bravo, that it increases certain compounds that can then be transformed during the fermentation into more fruity, impactful flavor compounds. But there's a lot to be said on that. But each varietal is super different. What's that?
It's so lot dependent too.
Lot dependent, yeah.
So like what we've learned is that you can't just say boom, everything past 2018 sell it, or like you can actually just do the work of testing it, whether it's doing hop teas or that sort of thing. The only thing that I would like actually put a line in the sand is like Centennial, pelletize it and use it as fast as possible.
Yep.
Everything else, like test it, like it's pretty much open to like the different lots, and like you might find a good lot and you shouldn't throw it away just because it's 2 years old.
Yeah, just find a different way to use it. Maybe it's just do the experimentation side of things, of like if it's kicking off a lot of garlic and onion when you open up the bag, maybe toss it on the hot side and don't throw it in the dry hop. Or if it kicks off some kind of like oxidative character and you have to use the hop, definitely try to use it on hot side, and try to save the freshest, most impactful hops you have for cold side additions.
Who likes American lambics?
Yeah.
They're real aged, and we did that on purpose. It was curated that way. So we like to talk about things that are coming up on this show as well. And so we have 2 beers that are coming up in September and October, respectively. One is called Brewer Direct, which hits on the theme that we're just talking about right now, and certainly is something that just by the name our listeners will be very interested in. And then Chase and Freshies, which is not a new beer, but a new edition of an annual beer. So maybe take us through those 2 beers, and we'll all be better we'll be better armed with knowledge for it.
I'll
do that one.
I'll do the Grow Direct if you want to talk about Chase and Freshies. Yeah.
Yep.
No, you talk about it. No,
Yeah.
you
I like the
talk about
tag
it.
team. The
You
tag
talk
team thing
about
works
it.
great. Mugsy's first, I guess.
Here, I'll make it difficult.
Oh.
Yeah. So Grow Direct. So we're partnering with CLS Farm, which speaking of Zappa, that's that's their child, that Neo-Mexican hop. And so we're partnering with CLS Farm, featuring hops grown on their farm, and super excited about that beer. I think it's really cool to do stuff with like individual farms and be able to like just showcase what each farm is doing, because one thing that I like, when we go through selection, we've gone through this process of, we don't necessarily know the grower number as we're rubbing, but as we're selecting, we're finding it pretty consistent over time that each year we're selecting from a lot of the same farms. And so whatever for each varietal. So it's just really cool to showcase what different farmers are doing and how they're, growing products for us. And CLS is doing a great job, and they're a really cool partner. And so Grow Direct will feature some Triumph, heavy in the Cashmere and the Eldorado side, and we're also Centennial. So we're super excited about that beer, and that's Grow Direct.
Yeah, I'll take Chase and Freshies. So that's our large production fresh hop beer. So the whole brewery has gets excited about those fresh hop beers coming here. But this year we partnered with Beet Burger in Germany. When we first started the conversations, it's like, yeah, we could have gone a traditional German, style beer. We kind of thought IPL for a little while. It just felt like, all right, that's just kind of like obvious, and they are also a family-owned brewery, and they are also very passionate about hops, even though the German market is a different market, right? But you might not know that about Beet Burger. And so they were really instrumental in bringing up Calista. So that's a hop that we kind of rallied around, like, all right, well, let's do a fresh hop beer and talk about our stories of like how Deschutes, works on hoppy beers and what Beet Burger has done. They have their own hop fields. And so they allowed us to use one of their proprietary Beet Burger hop. I'm going to mispronounce it, but the Siegel Hopvin. So that's on the hot side.
Totally.
And, yeah, right? Perfect. Rolls off the tongue.
Bless you.
Thank you. And then German Calista in the brew house. And then, it was super fun to, during a pandemic, to be sending them fresh hop beers during harvest, because we had to work a year ahead of time. We only get one window to pick a fresh hop varietal. And so we picked Triumph and Cashmere. Obviously, we have a lot of love for for these hops right now. Yeah. And so this is the first time, we wanted to make it extra complicated for ourselves and do 2 fresh hop beers. So we'll be blending them in the fermenters and getting the hops in the brew house, and then doing some pellet hopping. So, they were planning on flying over, and now things are all weird again. So it's kind of a bummer. But we've stayed true to the project, and excited to get that out for harvest.
Right on.
They'll just have to come over and visit with no work. Like there's no to-dos. Just come over and we'll have a good time. That'd be great.
Yeah. So we do this thing on the show called What We Drank. Super complicated. It's basically the last thing you drank before you were on the show. So I will go first. The last thing I drank was a new beer that we have at Mujeres. It's a collaboration that we did with Hopnonymous. It is a double IPA, and we called it Pachamama. They might call it something else, but we used all the cheater hops. So it's a great tasting beer. It did come in at 9.3, but it is delicious, and I will get some to you guys so you can try that out. But yeah, that's the last thing I drank. Senor Abel.
Well, I was at a tiki bar earlier and had a Mai Tai and a zombie, but
Yes.
we won't talk about that.
But that's the last thing you drink. That's like
It was the last thing I drank, but the last beer that I had was the Oktoberfest beer from Karl Strauss. My birthday was last week, so this guy named Paul Segura, he came up to me and said, "Here you go, bro. It came right off the line. This is for you." So he gave me a 6-pack of Oktoberfest, the Karl Strauss Oktoberfest. And then speaking of birthdays, Brandon, yours is coming up.
Oh, that's right. Thank you.
What was your last drink?
4-5's right around the corner. Partially to forget all about that. Just kidding. I had sorry. What was it called? Oh,
You left. That's what I heard.
Hef Leopard from Beechwood. They're Hefeweizen. Now, I really, coming up in the late 90s with my craft beer drinking, oh my God. I really, really loved, actually, porters and hefts were like my two favorite styles that I love to get. But, lately, it's really hard to find a good American-made hef that conveys what you can get, and that's even if it comes across the Atlantic fresh enough that you can really enjoy it. But this one, finally, I'm like 5.1%, just not overdone with the banana and the clove. I mean, they were there, but it was really just this great balanced beer that you could, very drinkable. It wasn't just a flavor explosion, but everything you wanted was there, and it was very drinkable. And I appreciated the heck out of that. So I had two.
Nice.
that's okay.
That's not the wrong answer at all. There you go. Veronica, what did you drink last?
I'm so embarrassed because I'm not going to. I have to be honest. I'm going to be honest, but I'm not going to remember it perfectly. Like right before this podcast, I was down at the lower warehouse and we had our pub picnic, and one of Drew down there always brings his cellar beers, and so he poured me into a solo cup, a Hill Farmstead. I want to say Ethel.
Oh,
wow. Cool.
And so
she's
it's like
dropping big
really
names
awesome
here, showing
beer.
off. Yeah.
Whatever.
I thought I was doing good with Paul Segura name drop, but I guess not.
He throws out, this little brewery, Roasted Farm, no big deal. Okay.
I mean, and it was only because it was right before here, and I'm like, I'll take. Yeah, thank you. This is amazing.
In a solo cup at that, girl, do it.
This is the best food-aged ginger white saison I've ever had.
Was it red?
The
or
Brett
blue
expression on this is great, and it's only amplified by the solo cup. The plastic they use is just freaking fantastic.
Yeah.
Abel's right. What color solo cup? It had better been red.
Was it red? Was it blue? Was it yellow?
Was it gold?
Yeah. No. So solo cup, does it have to be red?
No.
No, they make designer colors.
I mean, you can use Dixie cups. They're this small though, but
it was clear, but it was a thick, big plastic cup, which is in my head a solo cup.
That's a solo cup.
Kleenex, where
no wrong answers in this category right now.
But you enjoyed the beer?
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
It's like a treat. Yeah, totally. I was
awesome.
No big deal. More beer I drink before this podcast, the more interesting it's going to be.
I'm just glad you showed up. Thanks for not you know what? I'm busy. I'm just going through your cellar beers. I don't have time for that mess upstairs.
Yeah.
All right, Vern, you got to top that with your Muxie Bose hat. Did you find a beer next to it?
Definitely did not. So I stopped in Astoria, Oregon on my way up here, and stopped at Fort George and picked up a bunch of beer there. And recently, just had a couple beers left over and had a Fields of Green, which is an IPA from them that was, canned a week ago and was just awesome. It was so good. Just jumped out of the glass and definitely didn't taste like whatever the 8% that it was. It was very good.
All
Nice. Well, I think we should drink another beer, guys. So
Well,
drink
no.
another beer.
I think we should. I think we should do our number 2
Oh, yes.
of our favorite Pacific West
Oh yeah.
hops. Vern's over there like, oh yeah, god damn it.
Great. Thanks for
What did I-
postponing
I
my
don't even-
next beer.
I don't even remember what I said for the first one. What did I was like, what are number 3?
It was
Oh,
so
Strata.
it was so 60
number
minutes ago.
3.
I get
Yeah,
it, bro. I get it.
Yeah. All right. Abel, you
So
wanna go first?
should I go first? I mean, Vern went last.
Yeah.
I'm just going to jump out there. I'm going cashmere.
Oh, there you go.
Boom.
Yeah, I love cashmere.
There you go. All
All
right.
right, Veronica.
Okay, I mean, I feel silly, but Strata was my number 2. And you know why? Brew
Yeah.
punch, baby.
Tell us.
Do tell.
I'm like, why?
Brew punch. Like, who would have thought like that there could be a hop out there that could taste like fruit punch? Also, strawberry. I get strawberry out of
I know.
Strata here and there.
Totally.
Yeah, and I also like that, like it's our like Citra. People are always like, I'm gonna try to find or try to breed or create a hop that's like a Citra replacement, and it's like, why? You know, like,
Yeah.
I feel that way about Strata. Like it's gonna be really hard to find anything that tastes like that. But it's also a good player. Like a Strata IPA is amazing, but like if you put it in with other hops, it really plays nice.
Brandon.
Very
Agreed.
well
Well,
said.
my number 2, you've probably never heard of it. It's from the Oregon State Aroma Hop Breeding Program. Graduated 2009. I can't believe it's that long ago, but Strata. I mean Strata. I think that is.
It's like Eric Estrada.
That's what I was gonna say that since the beginning, so he wouldn't forget. But I was like,
let's check.
nah.
Let's check with the TTB. Who's registered that one? Oh, only about 50 people, but I think that sounds rad. I love it. Strata is the most exciting hop that I've had since my number 1. That is the varietal that I'm going to pick. I just love the fact that, like you said, it's multifaceted in that it can be its own amazing layered dimensional hop by itself, and you get interesting things. I tend to get kind of like the I call it like the pog hop, in that you get a lot of that tropical island drink thing going on. But strawberry, I know that's kind of like its characteristic. I have trouble picking up on it, but I'm just glad it's there. That just means that my palate's broke. But I love the fact that it just has so much going on its own. But you're right. You put it in there with other hops, and it plays so well. And it can almost bring them all together, which I love about any hop that's got that much going on. So Strata, numero dos.
It's like Red Rover.
Over.
Bring Strata right over.
All right, Estella.
Yeah. So I went Cascade just because I really like Cascade again. I mean, there's no real reasoning behind my answers other than the first one, but it's just like I said, these are hops that make me happy when I drink beers that have them in them. So yeah. Cascade. Cheers.
Enough said.
You ever heard of a company called Sierra Nevada?
I heard
Cascade's
of them.
great.
I heard of them. Yeah, I heard of them. So yeah.
Who?
So now we can get to the beer. I'm already started drinking because I got
Wait.
already.
I still have to
Oh
talk.
shit! Sorry, friend. Sorry.
I
Could
still
you
have
make
a
it?
turn.
Could you make
Okay.
it quick, Abel?
Abel, apúrate.
All right, I can make it quick by putting my number 1 to my number 2, or I can put my number 2 in front of my number 1, and then wait, what?
You didn't
This
know.
is taking a long
Either-
time for me. Quick.
I had this hop in 2019. I didn't know how long it's been around. I'm a huge tea drinker. It's Idaho 7.
Yeah.
Because I never heard of Idaho 7 until 2019. I had it for the first time. I get a lot of that black tea kind of out of that, but I also get a lot of passion fruit, and it's like it's my number 2, but it could be close to number 1.
Great pull.
All right, cool. I'm done. Go ahead, Estella.
It's not grown in Idaho. No, okay, never mind.
Let's not get into that.
All right. Yeah. So next we have Jesus. Show Brandon's.
Don't. I just covered up half the name.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it again. Haze.
Haze Tron. First off, love the name. where did this name come from? And I already know the answer, but I still want to know what the name is from. Secondly, yeah. So I want to hear the story. I'm getting it from the can. The can shows it, So anyway, but yeah, this is the another beer that you guys sent us, and I'm not huge into hazies, and I'm drinking this, so I really like it. So
we got you with this one. We pulled you.
I'm over the haze phase, I'm over it. But every now and then somebody reels me back in, and I'm back in right now.
I mean, I appreciate the honesty there. It's like, yeah, it's all. I mean, like, so yeah, everyone seems to love it. So yeah, thanks for being you.
Mm-hmm. Got you, girl. So,
is this your name?
Tell us about this beer, please, and how you guys came about this beer, and what exactly goes into it, and why I want to keep putting more of this in my mouth. So thank you.
Yeah, Haze Tron. I mean, like, doesn't the name just tell you like Imperial Hazy Haze Tron, like the future of hops? That was like the thought there. I'm pretty sure this was Kyle's name.
Okay. Definitely.
Yeah.
Damn it, Kyle.
Yeah, blame Kyle. But thank you, Kyle. It's with names, it's like whoever comes up with something that hits, like there's no set process for names. People always ask, like, all right, who comes up with your names? We're like, do you have a name for us? Like we're all ears. Tell us. So
please.
Definitely somebody who loved Transformers, obviously. But I mean,
I get Voltron out of this, not Transformers.
I get both.
It's not, hey, good news, it's not GoBots. So, you're winning.
Started with his first name was more of like a kind of showcasing the experimental hop 630. So it was Haze Tron 630. And I was like, dude, is this like a Deltron thing? And he's like, who's Deltron? I'm like, what?
Del the fucking Homo sapien. Come on now.
So that was like,
speaking of birthdays, today's his birthday, by the way.
No way.
Yes,
really?
Wow. I mean, I'm a wealth of useless information. Today is Del the fucking Homo sapien's birthday. So
I mean, here's Deltron. Amazing, right? Like, so yeah, so I totally thought that's where he was going with, and he was like, no, it's just the experimental hop variety 630. And so yeah, so we dropped the 630. It's still in there, like the experimental variety is still in there, but like a lot of times when you put the varietal like in the name, like you're so locked in that you can't evolve. So like we wanted to be able to experiment with this to some extent. So like Haze Tron, we're like talking about what we've been talking about, the future of hops. So we're talking hop process, hop products, where we put the hops in the recipe. And so those experimental 630s are in there. We throw a lot of pineapple, a lot of tropical. Simcoe Cryo's in here too, right? Mm-hmm. And gosh, have you been a part of the recent trials on that Simcoe Cryo? Like we're still like, all right, where's the best place for this to get the most bang for our buck here? But that's
I mean, we're definitely still playing with it, and it seems like it depends lot to lot, like things that we've done in the pilot versus production, what we're finding, but we're messing with that beer as well, just like as far as hop addition placements, hop loading. It's continuing to evolve. So the beer that you have now will be different in some aspects than the next beer that comes out in that can. Just like as far as that's the cool thing about what we do is like we're trying to make a beer that it like embodies the flavor that we imagine when we try to put it into a can. And if it doesn't like fully epitomize what we're after, then we just like have to continue to like work on it, tweak it. And that's what art's all about, especially with an evolving, business of agronomics where you're like, you get different hops every year and different flavor profiles. So, but yeah, messing with that beer.
Did you use cryo hops in this? Yeah.
Yep. Simcoe Cryo.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. I get a lot of orange off of Simcoe, so I think that Haze Tron to me is like a orange pineapple kind of flavor. Also, I mean, we've only been talking about hops, but I guess I will mention a malt or something that we did different with this. We brought in a Canadian malted oats. So it still has, it's not the flaked oats that we've been using in our other hazies. That's in our fresh haze. So just trying to experiment with also different malts in the hazy beers to see how do we get that pillowy mouthfeel? How do we help maintaining the haze by the selection of oats and that sort of thing on the malt side?
Yeah. Very good.
Well, what do you guys think?
I think it's very elusive
again.
as an 8%. What we didn't really mention was the fact it's an Imperial IPA. Very drinkable. I get kind of the flavor expression that you were talking about. I like that it's not one of these hazies because I'm also not a huge New England style IPA fan. I like that it doesn't look like a candle. When you see these beer candles that come out, it's just I just have so much trouble getting on board with something that thick and viscous. I like that it's still a very drinkable IPA, and it really hides the alcohol that's in there. 8%, it's at the bottom of the range for double IPA, but really tasty, really drinkable, and yeah, I think I feel like Estella does, where it's like, yeah, I can get behind this beer, but if we're going full on haze craze, I might have a little trouble. But this is kind of like a nice tweener for people who are maybe. I think you probably run into this more in Oregon than we probably do in Southern California. Actually, fans of older school IPAs maybe struggling to get on the board with the hazies, whereas down here, there's all these hipsters who are like, hazy's the only way to go. I just can't get. They can't take the step towards the old school IPA, whereas you're kind of taking them on a different trip and getting them there. But this still has so many, like a nice bitterness to it, things that remind you of all the things you love about West Coast IPA. But it just happens to be a little more hazy, and so I love the hoppiness of it. So way to go!
No, it's really good. Again, coming from a tiki bar earlier, I feel like I need to put rum in this because you were talking about the pineapple and orange, and I'm like, oh yeah, I really get the pineapple and orange, but like, there's no rum.
Yeah.
Well, not to the end of the show.
Yeah,
Not a bad idea.
I'm just
Rum
saying.
barrel aged, Haze Tron, dry hopped at the post. Not a bad idea.
You're
This
welcome.
is how ideas
I
happen.
hope you guys get that idea. Make sure you invite us when you guys make that.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll
But,
come up and help Chris in that. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this is the second ABV smuggler of the show because same thing. You don't taste the 8% in this at all. This is a very, very easy drinker. This is something you can easily be enjoying, and then it hits you later, and you're like, "What happened?"
We'll see.
Is that where you get that phone call tomorrow? Be like, hey, I left my credit card there.
Yes, exactly.
I left my credit card in the tasting room.
Yeah.
Can I come get
Did
it?
you by chance find a card? No. Okay.
So what you guys are a larger brewery, and one thing that we see a lot with the likes of locally here, maybe a Stone or a Ballast Point, the casual fan is so used to seeing what you have at retail, whether it be core beers or a mixed pack, or even though there's new offerings within those, they get used to what you're doing for more of a broader scale, but then they maybe never get exposed to the likes of your barrel aged beers. Now you all do just fantastic barrel aged beers. I've loved them for well over a decade, and I'd love if you could kind of take us through your oak aging program, the barrel age, what you've created, and what we could probably find out there. Say, like, if we were inspired, go find it tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure. That's been a journey. Oh my gosh. Like we started with just having like barrels in the production brewery, like tucked in corners. And like when I was at the pub, I had a barrel like squirreled away underneath the stairs. And like now we have like a whole area that has, around 10 fooders. And they're all different sizes. We're still, it's not like all perfect. It's still very homegrown. And a much wider variety of things than when we first started. I mean, Abyss, our anniversary Black Butte, and Dissident is what our barrel program was. Mm-hmm. And now, we've been doing variants of Abyss, tons of different barrel type testing there. Obviously, we talked about like the Dissident Peach, so getting new fruits there. But we kicked off a reserve club, now about 2 years, I think. The pandemic time, like, it's a time warp. So I'm like, was it a year? Was it 2 years? But anyways, like with that reserve club, we're able to do single barrel releases and mix in tons of different things. Like, last year we worked with Amburana barrels, so people were getting single cask Amburana bottled releases. They hit the pilot. That's where they're bottled. They're hand bottled. So playing with a bunch of stuff there. We did a spruce tip ages. So, just getting like sour beers and our like Imperial stouts, Imperial porters, still playing with those. We went from our 22-ounce bomber, again, about 2 years ago, into a 4-pack, 12-ounce, which is
smart.
big, right? Like now you can just open up a 12-ounce of, raspberry black butte porter or like some barrel-aged, 11% beer. You don't have to wait for the special occasion or when you have all your friends. I mean, it's fun to share with friends, but at the same time, sometimes you might want to, enjoy Netflix and chill with a
like during the pandemic. I was Netflix and chilling and opening up 22 and 750s like every day.
I don't know. What am I missing, Verno? Like,
I mean, So, I mean, the barrel process at Deschutes has definitely evolved just in the last like 7 years that I've been there, in the sense that, there was at one point like it was like a side responsibility, and we had, maybe 5,000 casks that we were responsible for moving around the brewery, and we didn't have a home for it except for completely across town at this offsite warehouse. And so you'd have to drive, 4 barrels stacked on a forklift between like the brand new bottling line and, not having your fork absolutely, take out a tank leg, and between these little spots, and then put on a truck, and then they go on a truck, and to go across town, they get emptied. It was a real labor of love. Like it really, and I do think that it's cool to hear, but I do think like that our barrel aging program is an underrated part of Deschutes, and something that, people know Abyss, and they know, our Black Butte Anniversary series, and they know Dissonant, but there is just so many beers that we come out with that are small scale, that are tremendous barrel aged, examples of beer that just don't get a chance to that far reaching, and just how drastically the beer industry as a whole has changed from their love for barrel aged and sour beers to our barrel inventory is certainly not at 5,000 barrels anymore, or casks, anymore of beer, and how it's been, narrowed down to this really fantastic little facility just down the hill from us. And we have a tank called, a vessel called Frank the Tank that's on a big old tanker vessel that looks like a big old milk truck style vessel, and it drives from the lower warehouse up to the upper warehouse. So we're able to, fill beer into the tanker, drive it down the hill now, fill barrels down the hill. Oh. And Ben, who runs our barrel program, has just done a tremendous job of like completely converting what we had as a barrel program prior, which was just kind of like this. I really hope we have time to handle, like, getting all these barrels moved from underneath where the pilot brewery is now into these trucks and moved across town. And then when they need to be unloaded, brought over and kept so, separate from all our other processes. And we just have a great system now and organization. And big shout out to both Ben and Dustin, who was our lead barrel brewer. Yeah. For the last number of years, came over from Boulevard, and the beer that they have produced over the last number of years. And the thing about barrel beer is, like, when you work up at the production floor, you see the life cycle of beer in 2 weeks. But when you work in Oakland, which is what we call where all our barrels are, it takes a year, so you don't going through and tasting each individual barrel. You're not going to get that experience unless you've been there for in that for a whole year and being able to see when you filled it, tasting it throughout the year, how those blends come together, all that kind of stuff. So it's just really amazing what we've been able to do, I think, and over the years, and how it's cool. I guess I don't know.
Journey. It's been an evolution.
It's definitely an evolution.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciated many JABFs where I spent a lot of time just sitting at the Deschutes booth going through some beers that I couldn't get. And 1 ounce of barrel age, 1 ounce of barrel age. Sometimes that was the only time I had this in an entire year because it wasn't something I could readily find, to be honest.
Totally.
And so that's where I first fell in love with that beer. So thanks for keeping at it. I appreciate it. Changing gears a little here. In March, Deschutes announced a partnership acquisition of another Bend brewery, Boneyard, a brewery that I've had many beers from at a local place called O'Brien's Pub. If you like hops, that was a great place to be. Tell us how that came about, how it's been going, and what we can expect coming our way from post partnership.
Yeah, I mean, this is like what the type of thing that bubbles up out of a pandemic. It's also like a homecoming kind of story because Tony, the head brewer at Boneyard, started at Deschutes at the pub. So he's known Gary, I think he started in the dish pit, right? And had an evolution of his own, becoming a brewer, then spinning
They wouldn't
off.
let him on tours, right?
No, I mean, he's had an amazing journey in the craft beer industry. Working at Firestone Walker, doing his own thing, and then coming back and creating Boneyard really out of mechanical ingenuity, right? Building a brewery, piecing it together, and it had such a love from the Bend community because there's so much authenticity there of someone just doing it, on their own. And they were a draft brewery. They're the number one selling IPA in Oregon, RPM. Big love for RPM here. And when you're a draft only brewery in the pandemic, you have to shift gears. So it's they hustled to get some canning on, and that's where the conversation started going. And that's where this partnership really has been exciting, because where we can help just get their amazing beers to retail. That's one way, that it benefits Boneyard, but then it benefits us because we're just increasing the brewer headcount here. So now we have a mingling of experiences, and brewers naturally collaborate. So now Tony and Nick and some of the brewers that have come over, it's just been really refreshing is the word that I'll use to just have more dialogue and questioning processes and and all that. So what you can see is hopefully the whole point is maybe you'll see Boneyard in San Diego. I mean, that would be
Nice.
amazing, right?
It's really good beer.
That'd be great.
Totally. And yeah, so that's super exciting, and and we're pumped to just have more brewers underneath, in our family here.
That's the feel good story of the evening. I really love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so now one thing that you kind of alluded to it throughout the conversation is that beer drinkers' tastes have changed. And that's just one thing that's cyclical, and you can't really predict it. So you always have to be ready, be nimble, and especially for a brewery your size, that's really important. And we've seen some changes and change in direction. But where are you going, and what might we see, and what's in the future for Deschutes?
Yeah, well, we're definitely all in on IPAs, and the cool thing there is with the variety packs and something, I don't know if you've seen it in your market, but with something called our fresh pack or can IPA variety pack, that's where you're going to be cycling through a bunch of new IPAs. So it's very, very bright and exciting pack. So you should be able to spot it in the wild pretty easily. We are doing our homegrown King Crispy. So that's coming out in the next year. Getting a craft lager out there, with still a lot of respect to tradition, and getting German malt and keeping all that. We are also working really hard on non-alcoholic beer. So we're making a non-alcoholic black butte. Eyebrows. Yep. I saw your eyebrows, Abel. Whoop.
That might be the first non-alcoholic beer I've been excited about in a while.
Yeah. So we're doing a black butte and an IPA. And then just keeping like, I've been talking to a lot of folks about just like what I'm calling entry craft flavor. So meaning like, there might be some people that like, they're like, I'm not a beer drinker, because in their head, it's like IPAs and lagers or beer, right? Yeah. And so what is like another way to get people in? And I think fruit beers are a very easy way in, or like cocktail inspired, or like some of these fruited tarts, like those types of beers. So we're definitely going to keep testing those beers in the future. So look out for our Shifty series. So that's where we're testing new beers for the future.
That's very cool. So now, as we want to keep up on this, what are the best ways to find out about all things Deschutes?
I mean, yeah, typical the interwebs, right? www.deschutesbrewery.com. It's probably going to be exactly.
What if I like TikTok though?
Yeah,
It's too many W's.
Oh man,
have a TikTok, right?
Yeah, Verno and I are probably your worst on like, TikTok and all that. Neither of us subscribe to the social meds as much as the rest of the world.
Are you guys on?
It's onlyfans.com/Deschutes.
Got it. Man, I was going to say it's Deschutes on Tinder, and this guy just takes it all the way. Okay, great. Well,
Yeah.
we'll find you out there for sure.
But another thing is like, if you really want to know what's truly bubbling up, like we have our pub pages. So both the Portland pub, the Bend, Deschutes Brewery Bend pub, and the Deschutes Brewery tasting room. That's where you're going to be seeing a lot of our new small batch stuff that could make it to retail. So, that's a lot of places to follow, but hey, got to throw it out there.
It's worth it.
Yep.
The V's are worth it. Both of them.
They'll do it. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, it's time for Estella's favorite part of the show.
I'm ready. I got my list.
It's not easy, but it's worth it.
I'm getting better every week, I feel.
I think you're right.
I think anyway. All right. So we're going to give a little shout out to each and every single one of our Patreons this week, like we do every week. Deep breath. All right. Let's go. Ben, Bill, Brian and Christopher from Pariah, Brian Gould, Casey, Dan Diegos, Dante, David Martin, second best producer, right? Second best, yeah.
Yes, second.
More Brewers
Abel rocks.
Garen with Beer Alien, Greg, the Indie Beer Show, Socially Distanced, Zorball, Pandemic LLC. Thanks.
Yes, that thing.
Greg and Maggie for that. Hoppy Craftsman Podcast, James, Jared, Jason, Jess from Ale Teos, Joaquin, Joseph, Joey, Juan, the beer historian, Judith Downey.
Hi, Judith.
Honorary patron for life, Larry Smith. Love you, Liz from Hops Power, Matt and Candace Babineau, Matt from The Perfect Pour, Miguel, Mr. Peacock from Tapcraft, Mike, Norman, Mary Jane from Gamecraft Brewing, Pacific Beer Chat, Robert from 13 Point, Rudy the Artist, Sergio, Ruth Justino and Naeli with Tamales Las Golondrinas.
I love it when you say that.
Jagus
Bay. All right. Fantastic.
All right.
Fantastic.
So before we leave, we have to talk about our number one's favorite Pacific Northwest hop varieties. Does anybody want to go first? Because I'll go first. Okay, I'll go first. Thanks for jumping up.
Abel, go first.
I'll go first.
I had to go old school with, well, maybe not old school, but like, it's one of the hops that I never thought I would ever like because I don't like grapefruit, but I end up liking it a lot. Is Citra. It's a Citra hops. It had a lot of grapefruit, a lot of passion fruit. If I'm wrong, if it's not a North Pacific West, then fine.
Yes. No, it is.
I know it is. You guys all just sat there like this, and I felt like I just took all you guys's. So, But yes, Citra. I was asked one time if I ever had to make a beer with any hops. Citra and Nelson were my two that I would always throw in to make a beer. If I had to make a beer that I wanted, that's it. But since Nelson's not part of Pacific North,
Yeah.
Citra it is.
You've chosen wisely.
And now I'm going to do this and go like, all right, Vern.
Okay. I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna tie in. I couldn't. So Mosaic and Sabro. I think Mosaic is like.
What a tie.
You talking about
know.
Mobro?
Hi.
Talking about a Mobro. Mobro. No, is he?
It's a Samaic.
There has to be a beer named Mobro. There has
There's definitely.
If there's not, please make it.
Make
That would
it.
be fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mosaic's just super dynamic, man. It's like you could. It's I feel like it's cheating making a single hop beer like that. You know, it's just yeah, it can be super fruity, it can be dank, it can be tropical, it can be so many things depending on where it gets picked. But it's just an extremely expressive hop. And Sabro, people hate it or they love it, and I definitely love it. You just have to figure out where to put it, like, you know, and how to add it. And you don't need a lot of it, but if you can dose in at like a 1/4 pound per barrel underneath like a little Mosaic, oh my gosh, you know, you're talking about like tropical coconut, danky deliciousness. So,
you know what's funny about Mosaic to me is that like somebody told me there's blueberry in it.
Oh,
it's like the number one thing. Right, but I don't get blueberry out of it.
Totally.
Do you get Oregon Marionberry?
You know, and so when some people are like, "Oh, I get blueberry out of this," I'm like, "Oh, it's got Mosaic." They're like, "You're really good, Abel." I'm like, it's like
you're off.
It's the number one thing that people say. It's like Mosaic blueberries. You know?
But I don't get that though. Like that's
I honestly don't get it either.
Never. Yeah.
It's blueberries are my favorite fruit. I've never gotten blueberries out of Mosaic.
Yeah. It's like I don't get soap out of cilantro, but
that's
a whole different story. That's a whole different story.
That's a whole other
We need to keep trying. We need to keep trying.
That's a different show. That's the indie cilantro show.
Okay, Veronica, hit us with your best shot.
My number 3 is Crystal. I think it's undervalued.
Wow.
And I think it's such a beautiful, like, floral, fruity hop. I've thrown it, like, you know, it's been years since I've brewed at the pub, but like one of my first beers was a Belgian triple that I decided to go big with Crystal. Oh. And like the way that played with the yeast is it was like super melony, which was weird, but I loved it. And it like solidified Crystal in my heart as like, this is an amazing hop that you can put in a lot of different, you know, like styles. You can put it in IPA. It's never going to be your like jazz hands hop, you know, like it's not jazz hands. It's like a hard-working, beautiful hop. But you could also throw it like in a saison, you know, if you want to mix it up, or like Belgian triple. So I don't know.
I love it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Now my number 1 is good old HBC 369, also known as Mosaic.
Of course, has to be 69.
Now, well, I even like the fact that, you know, getting away from the obvious there. I like that you take 3 and you add 3, it's 6, and you add 3 and it's 9. 369. No, fantastic. This is how my mind works. That's why I'm a grandpa. But Mosaic is. I was talking about Strata being the most exciting hop I'd come across since my number 1. I still remember the first time I had a single hop Mosaic at Carl Strauss, going back to your friend Paul Segura. But when they came out, that Mosaic Session IPA that they do, I was just blown away. I was just sitting there with my wife at a table and just said, "This is fantastic. It's one hop and it's just got so much going on in this beer. I would have thought they had like 4 or 5 different varietals in here." And she tried it. She's like, "I don't even like hops that much, but this is really something. There's just so much tropical citrus. I mean, just you name it. Blueberry, of course." And it's just the most dynamic hop I've ever come across. And I'm really glad that it caught on the way it did. It had to, being so amazing. But it's my favorite. Anybody asks, can we make a beer? Yeah. Can we have Mosaic in it? That's always the first question. So fantastic.
All right, Estella. So, how much does Steven pay you to wear that shirt, and how much did he pay me to wear this shirt?
Which shirt is that? I was going to ask you that. Which one is it? Turn around. I got to see the back.
It's the anniversary shirt.
But there's 4 different ones. Let me see the back.
Oh, God damn it. I got to turn around.
Hey, Liquor Store Mike up in the house. Yeah.
None of this makes sense to our guests, but
Sorry,
Liquor Store Mike is a cool graphic designer. Oh, he's great. Anyway, look up Liquor Store Mike on the old Instagram or the TikTok. You got TikTok yet?
TikTok, yeah.
Tinder.
But yeah, Abel's wearing
OnlyFans.
the 4th anniversary shirt. I'm wearing emo brown shirt because Mujeres is actually doing the emo brown golf tournament tomorrow, which they raised over $25,000 for scholarships, you guys, which is just friggin' amazing.
Awesome.
So shout out to the emo brown. Got the shirt on today for them. But so my favorite is a hops that I think somebody mentioned before called Mosaic. Yeah. Yeah. Somebody said that before.
Never heard of her.
Yeah, exactly. So, and honestly, like literally almost Brandon's answer, that Karl Strauss Mosaic is honestly one of my favorite beers. And every time I see that beer, I'm like, oh, I'm taking that absolutely, because the hops in that is just, oh God, it's just so good. And they call that a session IPA, which is just, it really brings out the flavor in the Mosaic. And just like Brandon said, like that's one of those hops that you use and you know the beer is going to be freaking delicious and freaking amazing every single time. So,
and Mosaic, if it's not, they really screwed up, right?
Yeah, they messed up. They don't know how to do it then. They don't know how to do it. But yeah, so yeah, that's my number one. So yeah.
I'm going to toss out a hop out there that died. That's a great hop. I don't know if you guys have ever tried 431, but that hop was amazing.
Didn't even get a name. HBC 431. I remember that one.
Yeah, never got a name. It's super peach, super stone fruit, and it was a big, we sponsored it at Shoots, and it just never caught on, and it died. But that hop is awesome. I don't know, actually. I don't know if it's just I'm not sure if it's an agronomic thing or what. Maybe Veronica knows, but that hop is awesome.
We didn't get like enough other brewers to be like, come on, this is, this is the hop of the future.
It's so good.
Start growing it, guys. Do it in your backyards because we can't do it down here.
Yeah,
I love it.
Fair time, right?
Yeah.
Well, sure. I just have to say this was a really fun. We don't usually go this long on the podcast anymore, but it was great talking to you all and just getting so much information. I mean, I know what agronomics are now, but seriously, you're so kind and giving with your time. We really appreciate it. I know our listeners do as well. They're going to be listening back to this one. We'll make sure they do. And we just thank you for the time. So for Abel, Stella, people who are named with a name that starts with a V and an E and an R.
Yeah.
And even me, Brandon. Thank you for listening to the Indie Beer Show and spending some time with the Shoots. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Yeah, thanks so much.